Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on advocacy. We're so excited to have you here with us. While we're taking a couple minutes just to admit everyone, why don't you go ahead and put in the chat where you're calling in from today so we can see where everyone is from. I know I'm in Virginia Beach. Arlington, Reston, representing the DC area, Falls Church. All right, while everyone continues to, oh yeah, Barb's in the office in McLean. Cool, we'll keep putting those in there. I'm just gonna do some quick housekeeping. First of all, my name's Emily Brown and I'm the Director of Marketing with MCI USA. And today's webinar, as I said earlier, is on advocacy and how to engage your community and activate them to participate in your advocacy process. So we have some really great presenters today, some stories, and just some guiding principles for how to do that well. Just some quick housekeeping. We are recording this session, so the recording will be available after the session. We will be emailing that to all of our registrants as well as posting it on our website, so you can keep an eye out for that if you want to share it or rewatch anything that you got some good insight on. Additionally, we will be taking questions throughout the presentation. So if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat and we will be addressing those throughout. We also will take, comments if you have additional comments on any of the content that's being shared. We want to interact with you on this and make it as valuable for you as possible. So feel free to do that as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan Gilad, and he's going to introduce all of our presenters for today.
Thank you, Emily. And joining me, I'm Jonathan Gilad, Associate Vice President, Association Solutions here at MCI USA. And I'm being joined by my two wonderful colleagues, Barb Kalura, who's President and CEO of RESOLVE, the National Infertility Association, and Tracy Sullivan, who is the Senior Manager of Grassroots and Outreach at RESOLVE, also at the National Infertility Association. Next slide, please. So we wanted to include, start with a quote, but I like this quote: "A rising tide doesn't raise people who don't have a boat. We have to build a boat for them." And I'm going to get a little bit more into that and how this quote relates to advocacy, since it may not be entirely intuitive at first, but I will bring this quote back to you. Next slide, please. But before we get into our presentation, at this point, we wanted to hear a little bit about from you, what type of advocacy you engage in. And with that, we have a quick poll. And we would like to hear from everyone here about the types of advocacy their association either engages in, or if you do this in a volunteer aspect, or you're curious about getting involved in advocacy, let us know in the quick poll. And while that's coming in, this is important for us to note, also just because advocacy on different levels can mean different things. We're to keep our presentation somewhat to the higher points that exist for all of them. But looking here, we seem to have a lot of federal and some international. That is great because our colleagues over in Brussels do that as well. And with that, we're going to continue on to the next slide, but it does seem that we seem to have quite a bit of federal advocacy. Okay, next slide, please. So this brings us back to our quote about how rising tides don't lift everyone unless they have a boat. Now, here at MCI, it's Infrastructure Week every single week when it comes to advocacy. And building your capacity to engage your members is critical to your success of your advocacy program. Having a solid groundwork and framework for your staff and members to engage is the way that they engage with you throughout your advocacy program and throughout the year. Next slide, please. But Another key important goal that we have at MCI USA for our advocacy is grassroots and grass tops. Those are two different types of advocacy, which we will get into, but they both lead to the same thing. It's empowering members. And we will go into later on about the difference between grass top and grassroots, topics that you kind of hear about pretty often. But the key similarity is that your members are your greatest asset. So when it comes to advocacy and engaging with your officials and federal and officials and lawmakers, both at the federal, state, international levels, it is your members that are the key to your success. And soon you'll be hearing a case study from one of our clients at MCI USA that shows the power of empowering your members to drive results. Next slide, please. But it is all about the value. Once you have your members engaged and a core group of volunteers established, it's important to recognize that not all engagement is good engagement. Through our case study, you will demonstrate the importance of being strategic in your engagement. Choosing when to engage with lawmakers and when to engage members is very important to preventing burnout of your members and also burdening of your staff. Not every engagement or activation has to be in response to a bill in Congress or a state house or in the European Union. Some can be efforts to pass statements or proclamations or other public awareness campaigns that keeps your members engaged and your volunteers motivated. Next slide, please. This leads to awareness and results. With the right strategic engagement, empowered members, and a strong organizational infrastructure, our clients are able to demonstrate real value to both their members and to those they are seeking to influence. And with that, I'm really excited to bring this over to our case study, and I will turn it over to Barbara.
Hi, everyone. First of all, Jonathan and Emily, thank you so much. You know that we love to share the good work that Resolve is doing. So we're thrilled, Tracy and I, to be here today to share a little bit about what we've been up to at Resolve. So who is Resolve? Resolve, the National Infertility Association. We're a patient advocacy nonprofit. We've been around since 1974. You'll see our mission up on the screen there. And I love some of our keywords in our mission. United by advocacy, that's what we're going to be talking about here today. But really, inspired to act is the favorite part of the mission for me. I love that we are inspiring people to raise their voice and to get support and to really take on their family building journey. So it's a great mission statement. We do state advocacy. We also do federal advocacy. We have probably more activity going on at the state level, but we do work in Congress. In fact, we have a very large fly-in. We do our Federal Advocacy Day in partnership with the American Society for Reproductive Medicine. They are the medical society in our field. And so we're bringing providers and patients together. What an awesome, awesome combination. And so, in fact, this year we did a virtual advocacy day and we had over 550 participants. While we're not going to talk about that in detail today, I'm very happy to share with anyone how we did it and some of the really innovative things that we did during our virtual advocacy day. So I have to tell you, the timing of this webinar is perfect because we just a couple of weeks ago did our 2022 planning with our coalition partners for our state advocacy efforts. So this is the time of year when we're all thinking about turning that corner and starting the new calendar year. So I would love for you to put in the chat what your advocacy goals are. The goal at Resolve is training people to be advocates and learning how to find their voice. So that's a key goal for us at Resolve. Of course, we want to see legislative change. But go ahead and throw in the chat what the goals of your advocacy program is at your association or organization. So when you think about, actually, I'm going to go see if anyone has put anything in the chat, and bringing awareness to policymakers about the importance of our cause or mission. Absolutely. I mean, that's a huge goal for all of us, and ensuring that people know who we are and what we care about. So your your mission and that strategic plan that you have, they're going to drive the advocacy work that you do. When you think about where should we focus and what our goals should be, look at your mission, look at your strategic plan, and out of that should be that path forward in terms of what your goals are for your advocacy work. You know, what problem are you trying to solve? What issues are you trying to advance? What really matters to your members, your constituents? You know, do you need more grassroots? Do you need more grass tops? Do you have a membership that's more on the grass tops level, and how do you engage with them? Or do you have thousands and thousands of members, and how do we work with and engage with the grassroots? Obviously, for the best outcomes, you probably want a combination of both. Advocacy can really bring your members together. It's a community, and it's incredible to see what they can do together. Really, I can't tell you how the best advice I would say to you is don't underestimate the power of your members. You know, when they're trained, when they're given the tools they need, and the goals that you're trying to reach are clearly articulated, wow, they can be an incredible force. I like to think that the value that we bring is we're unleashing their advocacy superpowers. That's what we're doing. We have a volunteer who's always saying to us, hey, we need to reduce the cognitive burden. And I love that. How can we reduce that burden on our advocates so that they really, their voice is what is most important, and they're not worried or scared about what they're saying or what they're doing? We have provided them the tools and the training. So Jonathan already said this, but that infrastructure, building that first, you're going to hear more about that from Tracy. But gosh, the worst thing that can happen is that you put a call out and you say, we want advocates, and you get people raise their hand and step forward, and nothing happens. Nothing happens. That is honestly one of the worst things that can happen. So we're going to share with you a little bit about how we look at that at Resolve, and along the way, share your successes, inform on updates, really keep your advocates engaged. And we're going to now hear exactly how to do that through our case study with Resolve. And Tracy Sullivan, I'm thrilled that Tracy could be here today to share a couple of examples of how we have done that at Resolve. And I just want to, before I turn it over to Tracy, Emily, if we have any questions in the chat for Jonathan or I, have nothing to report.
Nothing yet.
Okay, be thinking of those really tough questions for Jonathan, not for me. All right, Tracy, take it away.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for the introduction, Barb. So for today, for Resolve, I'm going to do a deep dive into two key case studies. The first one is the Resolve Advocacy Network, or we like to call it short for RAN. So why was this group created? Twofold: to help with family building legislation and calls to action, and to create an engaging community. As many of you may know, advocacy efforts can take years to pass, and you need to have volunteers who are not going to burn out or lose interest over time. You need to find a way to motivate your advocates, and one way to do that is to build community where they are in a cohort of individuals who have become like family. You also need a cohort of advocates who are all trained in similar styles, so when called upon to act, they're able to do so. Volunteers need to feel valued in their time, skills, and resources. So having structures, guidelines, and expectations for advocates from your organization, while those can seem tedious to set up, it will go a long way. Being organized and matching volunteers with interests and projects that match their skill sets will also help to increase your retention rates. Resolve does this through volunteer manuals, application processes, and surveys to help identify advocate interests and make sure they're matched up with the skill sets they have. Through this, since September 2020, we have grown the RAN group to almost 4,000 advocates from all 50 states in the US, and over 75% of those advocates of 4,000 have already completed their first advocacy action. So advocacy needs to be easy and an entry-level process. So for completing those first advocacy actions, you don't want your advocates to get discouraged or lost in the mix or guessing how to advocate in the first place. People will take action more often if it is quick and efficient. So that would include providing people with scripts, talking points, phone numbers, and a list of actions that they can copy, duplicate, is very effective. We utilize a system called Phone to Action because it does just that. It takes out the guesswork and connects advocates directly to their lawmakers with templates, tweets, and phone scripts. So going back to community and retention, once someone joins our RAN group, they're also invited to join a private Facebook group where new advocates can connect with longtime advocates to help with any questions that they have, training, or support and friendship. We also have 9 identified mentors in this group who are available for one-on-one conversations and anything that a new member might need help with. This is a pretty active and engaged group where advocates often connect with each other and share out their advocacy activities. This group's help to keep advocates engaged and share successes that other advocates then see. And it also fires up additional group members who may be new to hop on and take action. So in congruence with our program launch, we also created a detailed state advocacy toolkit as an easy way to help guide new advocates to take outlined actions through step-by-step instructions and immediately connect them with ways they can get involved. So again, going back to Barb and Jonathan's point, while building the infrastructure to the RESOLVE Advocacy Network took time, when we were ready to recruit advocates, they had ways to engage, their actions took off, and their impact and results were exceptional. So I wanted to pause for a moment and check in with Emily to see if we have any questions or comments before moving on to the next one.
We have a quiet group today, so no questions. I put in the chat that your numbers are extremely impressive. So
oh, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all this.
Thank you. All right, I will move on to the next one. And again, everyone feel free, if anyone has any questions at any time, just pop them in. So continuing with our next case study with RESOLVE, I also wanted to share an additional engagement example that we did in the spring this past year called the Proclamation Project. So our Proclamation Project goal was to increase awareness to lawmakers and local community members about infertility during our National Health Observance, which is also called National Infertility Awareness Week. So we did a call out and asked our advocates to request proclamations in their municipalities and states. So how did we do this? Again, thinking of structure, we created a sample proclamation draft that advocates could copy and paste directly onto an official proclamation request. We also included an instructional guide created as well to share how an advocate could complete this project, what resources they needed, who they had to contact, and ways to follow up. We created a guide that was also easily transferable to use from state to state. And we even had one advocate request over 50 proclamations in her own state from counties and cities. During this project, we also created a results webpage, which showcased an interactive map of the US, a progress of all the requests that had been approved by advocates and all the cities and states that have been submitted so far. So this way, advocates could get excited about the requests coming in, and they could also share information and not duplicate the process if they were in the same state as someone else and a proclamation had already been requested. If a request was approved, we also provided templates for the advocate to use to send thank you emails and Twitter messages to recognize and thank their lawmakers. So what was the impact and results of this project? We had over 180 of our advocates submit proclamations, with 75 approved by states and cities. This was an incredible show of support and response they received, and way more than we originally anticipated. With this, we were able to spread awareness about infertility and its impact on families in local and state settings, and to get support from governors and local municipalities on pro-family issues. And going back to that advocate who had submitted 50 proclamations, I wanted to sort of share an impact quote that she sent to us, sharing her experience about participating in this project. So she said, I currently hold the title of Mrs. Washington International 2021. And I decided to use this proclamation project as one of my main service projects for my platform this year. This has been such a great way to reach out to various mayors from across the state, introduce myself, and share a little bit about my platform, which is infertility awareness and personal story. Last week, I sent out requests to 102 cities across Washington. Yes, 102. So far, I have 7 yeses and 4 nos. But even the nos have been great because I've been able to speak with mayors and staff about infertility awareness. And most of the nos were due to staffing limitations and limiting the number of proclamations this year. And of the 7 yes cities, 2 of the mayors actually shared their own personal struggles with infertility. It has been really amazing to connect with these elected officials on this level. So thank you to Resolve and Tracy for putting this together this year. I've thoroughly enjoyed getting to know the Washington mayors and sharing my story of infertility with them. So for us, in addition to powerful advocate testimonies like the one above, one of the highlights of this project was having governors from 36 states, including New York, Colorado, and Washington state, and mayors of major cities like Houston, Atlanta, and Chicago participate. And again, for the main takeaway, although planning and adding in structures and guidelines for this project and other projects you may work on can be time consuming, they can also encourage an easier process for the advocates you work with and lead to better and more impactful advocacy results for your organization. So I will pause for any additional questions and then I'll pass it back to Emily.
Yeah, feel free. I know I posted in the chat if you have any questions or comments on anything that's been shared, please send them in now. And while we're waiting for some of that, I also wanted to do a plug for our upcoming webinar. So first of all, thank you so much, Tracy and Barb and Jonathan, for sharing so a little bit about how organizations can really activate their members and get them involved in advocacy in order to ultimately further their mission. This has been some great information. And again, we'll be sending this out as a recording probably tomorrow. So if you have any additional questions past that, feel free to reach out to any of our presenters. And I see a question did come in, so I'm going to pause on the save the date and ask this question. So what if you haven't even started advocacy? Where might you start and not bite off more than you can chew?
Jonathan, you want to start?
Well, I'll probably start where you were going to start, but I was going to say that you start with your mission and what is the purpose and I guess goal of your organization, and that really determines where you should begin. And Barb, do you want to add on to that?
I was just going to say that, and you know, what problem are we trying to solve? And looking at is how big is this problem, and if there are opportunities to scale it back. You know, I always say to people, you have your constituent of state legislators and federal legislators. If you feel that your problem needs to be solved at the state level, go meet with your state legislators and tell them what the problem is, and see what their thoughts are, what their ideas are. If you feel this is a federal issue, then you need to take it to your member of the House of Representatives, your 2 US senators, and let them know who you are and what problem it is, and see what their thoughts are on how to solve it. So let's enroll with the experts. And it's so awesome in the United States because every single person who's registered to vote is a constituent, and you can request to speak to somebody in those offices and start that conversation. So it's amazing how many people don't know that and don't do it, right, Jonathan and Tracy? And then when they realize how easy it is and how they become a resource and an expert for their members of Congress or for their state legislators, it's really just a beautiful relationship that grows from there.
And just to add, I would say one bright spot about COVID is that it has democratized engagement with members of Congress and also your local officials. You no longer have to be in your state capital or in Washington to lobby your members. Their staff have become very familiar with using Zoom, like we all have, and that makes it just that much more easy to engage all levels of government right now.
Hear, hear.
We have another question on the first example. I believe the RAN project that Tracy, you had talked about. There was a Facebook group that was mentioned. Can you share a little bit about how the engagement or how successful that page was and what engagement you had?
Yes. So for engagement, you know, we started off with 0 at a brand new group and have 600 members now. And to start it off, you know, I started with weekly engagement posts for people. So whether that's welcoming new people in, asking people where they're from and why they want to be connected to advocacy and connected to the mission of Resolve. And then I think through that, with the Proclamation project and Federal Advocacy Day and State Advocacy Days, we've seen some really great engagement in the group of people getting excited and posting, you know, selfie tags and signs of why they were going, posting their Proclamation projects. And I think it really is, you know, helpful when one person, a key advocate, posts and then it spirals off of that and other people want to be involved in it and act. So I think we ended up having like, I don't know, 50 people post their pictures from their Proclamation project because they were so excited. And then they had other people comment below saying, you know, good job, you did a great work. So I think it's definitely, you know, with engagement with Facebook, having those key postings, but also including mentors and advocates in your network who like using social media and having them engaged as well to help start the conversation and get other advocates involved.
Great, thank you. All right, if we don't have any other questions, I'll plug the next session now. So we have on October 13th, Barb, who's with us today, is going to be joining us again, along with Laura McDonald, who is the president of Giving USA, and they're going to be presenting about some philanthropy trends and insights, and also how to apply those and some best practices for looking forward to year-end fundraising as well as into 2022. So we hope you can join us. We'll be sending out some more information on that shortly. And I just want to say thank you again to Barb and Tracy and Jonathan for joining us today. And before we close, Jonathan, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, sure. And I just wanted to conclude with this quote again. Once again, a rising tide doesn't raise people who don't have a boat. We have to build the boat for them. And what I hope from today you've learned is having the infrastructure that enables and empowers your members is the key to their and your success as advocates and in your mission. So I wanted to say thank you to my colleagues, Tracy and Barb and Emily for helping this along, and hope to see you at the next webinar.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.